Hello and welcome to Small Business, Big Life inside Fort Orange General Store, where entrepreneurship meets marriage, kids, and controlled chaos. I'm Joe Slicko, and with me, as always, is my wife, business partner, and the owner of Fort Orange General Store, Erica Cubello.
Hey everyone, what's up?
In today's episode, Erica, we are going to discuss spring break Fort Orange style.
Yes, the most fun spring break you will ever have.
But before we get into that hilarity, although this is episode 11 and we have conquered our first 10 episodes with over 1,000 downloads already,
Mm-hmm.
we still have to ask all our subscribers, all our listeners, that is, to please like or subscribe, hit that button, smash it as they say, share this with a friend, do all the things to help us out, please.
That would be excellent because we still are a small emerging podcast and we really need your support.
And of course, we thank you very much for the support you've given us thus far to get us where we are today.
That's right. We would not be at 11. We would not have hit over 1,000 downloads. So thank you very much to every single person who has listened just once or maybe every week since the beginning. And you know what, Joe? That's a cool story that I heard over spring break.
Well, why don't we start there? Tell your story, Erica.
So I met this awesome couple that came in. They were so excited to be at the store. They've been at our store over the years, but they were really so sweet and cute and were excited to meet me and be at the store because they said that they listened to our podcast and have listened to our podcast since the first episode dropped.
That's awesome to hear. Did they have anything to say about maybe one of the co-hosts?
They liked me more.
Well, I'm sure they had other things to share with us.
No, they did. They said that they loved listening to our show and thought it was really cool that we talk about what it is like to run a small business and the inside scoop. And that's kind of what we're delivering today with our spring break edition.
Yes, it is. So, right before spring break happened, we kind of embarked on part of the journey of the entrepreneur where, well, let's take the saying, April showers bring May flowers.
Mm-hmm.
When it rains, it pours.
Oh, yes, it does.
That kind of happened to us from a multitude of dimensions.
Let's get into it, Joe.
So, one of the beauties of owning a business, being a boss, what have you, is employees
Mm-hmm.
and hiring employees
Mm-hmm.
and growing employees
Yep.
and retaining employees and then having them decide that they're going on to other pastures at a moment's notice,
Other pastures.
which in and of itself, it's the circle of life.
Right.
It's what you sign up for.
Mm-hmm.
And then there are those moments, which I call spring, where it always seems like several employees find their different pastures.
Yeah, you're right. I agree with that. It does kind of feel like this happens like a spring refresh every year.
Spring refresh.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. And that gears you up for summer. And then you have your summer help come in and rinse and repeat. It all happens again.
It does.
However, this all happened kind of abruptly and from two different fronts at the same time.
Yep, it did. I'm kind of speechless right there because it's exactly true. We own two businesses and both of them went through a spring refresh at the same time.
And let's say they were unexpected.
Yeah.
And right before, Easter. And I was also going through some difficulties at work,
Mm-hmm.
my other job, with just, nothing major, but staffing issues, let's
Yeah,
say.
you've been feeling it for a little while.
So it all kind of hit at the same moment.
Yep.
And in non-professional settings, you don't always get the notice that you want.
Exactly.
And that notice can be 2 weeks, and that 2 weeks can turn into tomorrow, which is generally the case when
Yeah,
someone in retail or someone in the cleaning business gives their notice. You just start to cringe because you know it's
it's ended.
rarely going to make it that full.
Right.
Yeah.
Yep, and that happened 3 times to us within pretty much a week of everybody. So it's been very stressful and very overwhelming to say the least. I think I've had a breakdown every day that you've kind of had to help me get over. And I'm sorry that you had to be the bearer of my mental anguish, but it's stressful. There's no two ways about it. Owning a business, owning two businesses, you're dealing with, like you just said, multiple employees, and you've got your principal job. So that's like a whole world in itself. So you're really handling three. And yeah, it's overwhelming. And when you've got three people that give their 2 weeks notice and then, you know, get mad because you ask them to be on top of their game, right? Because that's what you talked about. We want to grow everybody, and we're not going to hold you to lower standards just because, like, it's still our business that we are putting on the line, um, that we, are wanting to keep held to high standards. So just because you've decided to move on doesn't mean we expect any less from you.
You're absolutely right with that. And I think let's start with Seriously Spotless. So that's the cleaning company. And it's one of those situations where, schedule wise, you're booked out a month, 2 months in advance. You're pretty, you know,
I'm booked out
booked solid.
like a year in advance, really, when it comes down to it, because we have our weekly, every 2 week, and every 4 week appointments. So, when people get on our schedule, they're signing up for an indefinite amount of time. It's not like, oh, I'm going to try you out and then maybe I'll book next. It's no, we're looking for help. We depend on you to help us. All of my clients have come to me for, a reason, right? They're either unable to care for their home anymore, they are working moms and dads with families, multiple things happening, and they depend on that help. So when I have to tell them bad news that, hey, I can't send anybody today, that is such an embarrassing moment. It feels like my stomach has been ripped out from my body. I hate delivering any sort of bad news because it feels like a reflection of me.
And I think that's the entrepreneurial spirit right there. We take it personally because it is us. It's
Yeah,
it's
it's
your
my
name.
business
It's
that
our name.
exactly, right. Yep, and I don't deliver bad service. I never want to deliver bad service, but unfortunately, the role that I play in both of these businesses is the boss role, and I cannot be the person on the front line doing the service anymore. I am the one who manages it, who maintains it, who does all the behind the scene work, right? And I need to have reliable, honest workers to go out there and deliver the kind of service that I would if I was in somebody's home. That's how I built the business, right? Like I started it, I know what I want. My customers have come to expect that level of service, and I don't want to deliver anything less.
No, you're absolutely right with that. And although you just said, your role has changed and you're absolutely right, for the last 3 weekends,
Yep.
you and I, normally with a child or two in tow,
Yep.
have been picking up the slack. And
So we do our full-time day jobs, and then because I have promised a reoccurring service and I don't want to let everyone down, I am trying to go in and deliver the service that people have signed up for in our free time, right? Our quote unquote free time. So Joe has been gracious enough to come and help, and we're getting it done. We own the business. We don't want to just say sorry and throw our hands up. We can't help you. We have no one. That's not my work ethic. I'm not going to do that if I can be there to, provide the service.
And I'll say for me, not having a real tie to the cleaning industry before I met you, like it was never anything I did. It was never anything I, really thought about. There's a sense of pride when I walk out of those buildings, those
Yeah, right?
offices, and like that's a tangible, in the moment, instant gratification that I didn't expect.
Yeah, no, cleaning is very therapeutic, and you do start to take ownership of the space that you're working in. And it's a beautiful job. Like when you have clients that you go and help every 2 weeks, every month, you start to become part of their family. And they look at you the same way, like they're really depending on you. So whether it's my service or the person going in and working in the home, there's this relationship. It's kind of like symbiotic, I would say, right? Because you, like you just talked about, start to form this attachment over the space, your work, how you're proud and you feel. And then they look at that in reverse, like they depend on you to be there and help and be a part of the family, pretty much, right?
Absolutely. And it's making me think of something kind of in the moment here. So, in career and technical education, we have industry partners coming in all the time, telling their stories, getting the kids excited, making those connections with them. And the pride that a lot of them have and speak of, whether it's, our building trades, our plumbers, our welders coming in, HVAC, auto services, whatever it is, they talk about the things they do. And I remember hearing, I think it was one of the local unions for construction or masonry when they came in, and they're talking to the kids about, their craft, and they referenced a building, and I can't remember which one at the moment. I apologize for that. But the way they said, that's my building. I
Mm-hmm.
built that.
Yeah.
And the pride that came out of that, it was very powerful. And now hearing you just kind of recount that story, that we just told, it's kind of clicking for me that there is that ownership and there is that, that's mine and that's tangible. And my, fingerprint is on that. My name is on that
Mm-hmm.
and that workmanship. And I don't know, it's impressive and it's making me very prideful right now.
Well, thank you that for saying that and making that connection, because I think that in those moments where I am like really in a panic about somebody calling out and not being able to deliver the service and I have to deliver that bad news, I feel like sometimes there's a disconnect for you. Like you understand it's hard, but that's what I'm feeling in those moments where I am so prideful. Sounds kind of bad, I guess, but like I take such ownership over helping my customers. And when I can't deliver that and have to deliver the bad news, it really takes a toll on me emotionally. It really hurts.
Yes, I know it does. It hits you from, multiple levels, and it's definitely an emotional thing for you. Let's transition now and talk a little bit about Fort Orange General
Yeah,
Store, where
yeah,
something similar happened. But thankfully,
right.
we have
An amazing employee.
other amazing employees.
Mm-hmm.
One in particular, Chris,
Yep.
has really stepped up and taken a lot of the shifts and did so, out of the kindness of his heart
Mm-hmm.
and is really helping the situation along while we're looking for that, the replacement or replacements to come.
Right. Yes, yes, Chris. He is amazing. And we love him so much as part of our Fort Orange team. So, one of our other employees kind of gave us hints that she was looking, right? And that's natural. Of course, like this is only a part time job. We don't expect you to live here forever. But then, she gave us notice 2 weeks, and I'm going to start my new job that I got hired for. Great. Congratulations. So happy for you. Of course, we want that for our people. Like, we don't want to hold you back. We want to see you grow, but we're still going to hold you to the same standard until your last day of work. So, I gave the same daily tasks that are expected on every shift, and it wasn't received so well. And that employee decided she couldn't do it that day and was just going to leave for the day and be done. Turned in her keys on the spot. Thankfully, Chris was there to pick up the slack and close the store for us. And, it wasn't a problem that we had to handle immediately in the moment. But, it comes down to our people, right? And who we have representing our businesses.
Correct. And, we have a responsibility. Of course, we have a responsibility to, our employees to make sure that they have a, safe environment to work in
Yep.
and that they're trained.
Of course.
But we also have a responsibility to our customers to give them the best customer service, to make
That's
them
right.
feel welcome and feel like they belong and feel like we appreciate them coming in every
Right.
day when they do.
Yes.
And one of the most amazing things about our store, and I alluded to this in one of our first episodes, is our HVAC system. It pumps out so much dust.
So much
And I've
dust.
changed the filters. I've done all the things. So feel
It's
free
an old
to
building.
leave all those comments about how I'm not doing the things and with the upkeep. But I'm trying. But
It's an old building.
yeah, like every 2 days, it's like, oh my God, we just cleaned this. It looks like we haven't,
Yeah, no. It's really important to keep up on all those details. I mean, that's what makes customer service, it's not just the talking, it's not just what's on our shelves, it's how things are presented.
And again, we can't thank Chris enough for what he's doing, but there's also only so much he can do because he's,
Of course,
one
yeah.
person.
Yeah.
So there is a lot of slack that over our lovely spring break here, you picked up and I picked up
Of course.
because once he agreed to take a bunch of shifts, it was like 9 days in a row.
No, and
And I was
that's
like, Chris, you can't do that.
Yeah.
You're gonna go crazy.
He tried to downplay it, and I was like, no, you got to have a day off. Even if it's only 4 hours a day, it still takes a toll. So I've been at the store with my oldest, and, that was a great learning opportunity for him. We spent a couple hours training him how to talk to people.
So let's talk about that. So there we are, and we're picking up some extra shifts, and because of that, we have to schedule on the fly and do some things differently and tag you out so
Right.
you can run the errand that's scheduled. All the things of life and practices and drop offs and pickups and
Yep.
all the fun things.
Mhm.
So here we are. We have our 9-year-old down there with us. And just like we would for anyone else, just like I would, my other job as principal, customer service is key. And from very first person you meet walking into the building to, my secretarial staff to everyone we interact with, it's all about customer service. Everyone's there for a reason. We're in the service industry, whether it's education, whether it's retail, whether it's cleaning, it's all service industry. So we're trying to instill that in him and teach him at 9 years old, which is understandably he's a kid, and start to kind of put those things in his head because he loves to work there, and we mentioned that before. So he wants to interact with the customers and he wants to cash everybody out, but he's also 9 years old.
Right.
So there's some teaching that has to happen.
Yes.
How'd that go, Erica?
Well, it was, I think, a tough learning curve for him because he's also a perfectionist and really wants to do everything right the first time. And it's hard for him to take criticism, as it is for a lot of people. But, he did it, and the first couple times were tough, and we had to, go through it a bunch with him, but the customers were so awesome and really nice to see the customers reacting to him and thanking him, and he gets a lot of, joy and positive reinforcement out of that. So it was just really beautiful to see it all play out, from him greeting people at the door to asking if they need any help, to then cash them out and say, "How was everything today?" And then hand them a bag and thank them and see you soon. So in the end, it all worked out beautifully.
All right, so that is a 100% typical Erica story right there. Now, can we talk about what actually happened and the experiences that our amazing customers just went with because they're so awesome
I
and
know.
so cool?
Yeah, a few of them had to deal with like the harshness of him saying, "Is that it?"
Now, let's preface multi step directions are a little difficult for him. We know that. We work with him on that. That's a known fact.
Yeah,
So when we give him this task or he asks for the task,
right.
there's a lot of things you have to do when you check out in a retail store. And he was very cognizant of trying to do all of those
He
things in the
was.
right order.
Yes, and again, like you said, he's 9. Like, giving a 9-year-old all of these tasks in a row and asking him to be friendly and personable and have conversation, like, he was getting caught up in going through the motions and doing everything right, and he's nervous. So it was really sweet how our customers were so gracious and kind and worked with him trying to learn the process.
And it's also funny because Erica has a certain style, a certain way that she interacts with customers. I have a certain way that I interact with customers. If I tried to be Erica and interact in her manner, I think someone would call the cops on me because it would come off as creepy and just weird. And if Erica tried my way, I don't even know, maybe
Yeah,
the world would implode.
I'd come across really rude, I think.
We're just going to gloss over that one. So there he is trying to listen to both of our
Yeah,
ideas of how to approach a situation. And he's just like, I got nothing.
I know.
So instead of the customer coming up and, oh, did you find everything you were looking for today? Is there anything else? Like, are you ready? Like some sort of conversation like that. Is that it?
Yeah, I know.
That's that's all you're getting?
Yeah.
And he meant it from like the sweetest place, but it did not come across that
No,
way.
it didn't. And it took him a little bit to understand that. But in the end, after a lot of conversation, he got comfortable enough to just kind of figure it out his own way. Like, you're not trying to be me, you're not trying to be Joe, just be you, because you're amazing when you're just you. That eventually showed through.
And I think that goes back to the point of could we have just said, no, you're not doing this anymore? We got it. Of course. But what's our purpose now? What's our role? What are we doing? I don't know, in life in general, I guess, but as small business owners, one of our roles is to grow our people.
Mm-hmm.
He's one of our
He
people,
is.
just like Chris is, and just like our other employees are.
Yep.
And to bring them from where they are,
Mm-hmm.
wherever that is, to where we need them to be and where we know they can be.
Right.
And sometimes people don't like that because they don't want that extra responsibility, even though you can see that in them.
Yes.
And they push back a little bit. Other times they are extremely grateful. Like I've was throughout my education journey when people would tap me for things and I would say, why me? That doesn't make any sense. I'm not ready for that. That's not me. And they would say, Joe, we see it in you.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah, it can be really hard and overwhelming to be asked to take on more. It can also be really upsetting and like defeating if you are not asked to. So, knowing that balance and being able to see a person where they are and get them to the next level is a strength of our own.
Absolutely. And one of the things that I'm worried about is we're going to burn Chris out because, he's really good at what he does and he's there willing and able
Mm-hmm.
to help us out. And one of my very, very early mentors in education once told me, he said, Joe, never get too good at your job. And I
Hmm.
was like, well, what do you mean by that? He goes, because when you're good, they're going to keep piling things on you and they're going to bury you and you're
Oh,
not going to get the extra money for it and you're not going to get any recognition for
right.
it. You're just going to be the guy that they go to, dump it on, and you figure it out.
Yeah, I never want to do that to somebody. And I know exactly what you're talking about. I've felt like I've been in those positions before too. So I do think that we are both very cognizant of that happening.
Absolutely. I think I'll share one more story.
Okay.
Last year, I'm, at work doing the thing, and one of the other divisions had lost their administrator, and that division happens to be in my building. So my boss's boss, I think you guys all know Jeff is my boss. Hi, Jeff. And our boss, Karen, who absolutely love, great human being, what a leader. And it's funny, I was telling her this story last week when we were going through all that stuff, and she didn't realize the impact this made.
Uh-huh.
So at that moment in time last year, I was having a conversation with her and I said, Karen, if we need to take this over for a little bit, I think we're in a good spot right now where, we could step in, I could run both things, I have enough,
Mm-hmm.
help, I can breathe a little bit, and if you need, our help, we're here for you. And of course, she thanked me, but then she said, I'm not going to do that to you.
Mm.
And I kind of paused for a second and, you start to feel all the feels. Why? Am I not good enough? Am I not
Right.
this? Am I
Yep.
not that? And then she said, you're here for the long haul. That's why we brought you in. And you're here to take care of your people. And if I were to put you in this position, I know you would kill it, but it would burn you out. You wouldn't be able to take care of your people like you are right now.
Right.
And that hit me like a ton of bricks. And I think I teared up in that moment, which I'm not a crier, but I was treated like a human being.
Yeah. I feel like that's exactly right. That's the sign of a very wise leader. And you did come home and tell me that story and say that exactly those words, that you kind of teared up and you had never been treated with that kind of respect, humanity, any of that in your professional settings before. It's always been do this, do this, do this. Okay, now do this, do this, do this. That's an amazing leader right there.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm very lucky and very appreciative. So to Chris, we're not going to do that to you. We're not going to let you burn out, buddy.
No, we are not.
So I think on that note, Erica, we've shared enough of our amazing spring break, which really came down to a lot of work.
It was, but I think it was a good spring break. I mean, we got to spend quality time at our business with our family, you know, teaching the trade of customer service. I wouldn't say it was a bad spring break because of that at all. It was nice. I enjoyed it.
So, for a little bit of our own therapy, why don't our listeners drop us some comments about what they did on spring break, and then we can laugh at them and commiserate a little bit as we compare it to what we did.
I really don't think we're that far off from many people because being at the store this week with the time off, I saw a lot of kids with their parents just running errands. I feel like that's where we are right now. For a lot of reasons. Things are really expensive. People can't go away like they used to. But I mean, what do I know? Maybe other people do have, and I'm just trying to like bury my head in the sand and say it's not that bad. Tell us about your fabulous spring break, please.
And as always, we thank you for listening to
Small business, big life. Inside Fort Orange General Store.